Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We're holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelek Aleph, and we will be learning today Mirz Hashem Daf Kuf Mem Beis Amid Aleph. We are continuing to learn halachos Tefillah. We're learning the halachos of Masiv, Harach, ומוריד, הגשם, and we pick up today on Kuf Mem Aleph Amid Beis, 2 lines from the bottom in the Mechaber, Siman Kuf Yud Daled Sif Daled. Says the Mechaber, Im Amar Morid Hagoshem B'mais Hachama. If somebody accidentally recited Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem B'mais Hachama in the spring and summer months between the first day of Pesach and Shmini Atzeres, when, according to Nusach Ashkenaz, you don't say anything at all, you just say Atar Gibor Loylam Hashem Echai Meisam Atar Rav Lo Yishira, and you go straight to Mechal Kachayim B'Chesed. And according to Nusach Sfard, we say Morid Hatol, Rav Lo Yishia, Morid Hatol, Mechal Kachayim B'Chesed. But we don't say Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem. Says the Mechaber, Im Amar Morid Hagoshem B'mais Hachama. If somebody did say Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem B'mais Hachama during the spring and summer months, Machazirin Oisai, he needs to go back. Where does he go back to? It says the Mechaber, the Chayzer L'Rosh HaBracha. He has to go back to the beginning of the bracha. So somebody said, Atar Gibor Loylam Hashem, Mechai Meisam Atar Rav Lo Yishia, Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem, Mechal Kachayim B'Chesed, Mechai Meisam B'Rachmim Rabim, Samech Noiflim. And now he realizes, whoops, I said Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem, I wasn't supposed to say that. What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to go back to Atar Gibor. Atar Gibor Loylam Hashem, Mechai Meisam Atar Rav Lo Yishia. If he davens Nusach Ashkenaz, he'll continue to Mechal Kachayim B'Chesed. If he davens Nusach Sfard, he says Morid Hatol, then Mechal Kachayim B'Chesed. So that's the first halacha here in Sif Dalet. You said Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem during the spring and summer months when you're not supposed to. You have to go back if you did not yet finish the bracha. Baruch Atah Hashem Echai HaMesim. If you're still holding in middle of the bracha, go back to Rosh HaBracha, go back to Atar Gibor. V'im siyem habracha. But if you already finished the bracha, and we'll have to see exactly what that means, if you already finished the bracha of Mechai HaMesim, now you can't just go back to the beginning of Mechai HaMesim, Chayzer L'Rosh HaTefillah. Now you have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. What's at play over here? Why is it that if you did not yet finish the bracha, you go back to the beginning of the bracha, but if you finished the bracha, you have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei? The answer is, if you're still in the middle of the bracha of Mechai HaMesim, so you did not yet close out the bracha, you can still fix your mistake. What was your mistake? Your mistake is that during the spring and summer months, you're not supposed to mention rain. You're not supposed to be praising the Ribbono Shel Olam for his power to bring rain during the non-rainy season, because it's not considered a praise to the Ribbono Shel Olam at that time. We don't want rain at that time. So you're not praising the Ribbono Shel Olam by saying Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem. So by saying Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem, and where is it? It's in the bracha of Mechai HaMesim. You're rendering your bracha of Mechai HaMesim ineffective. Ineffective is not defective. That's the word I'm looking for. Your bracha of Mechai HaMesim right now is defective, but you didn't finish the bracha yet. So you can still fix it by saying Mashav Harach Morid, by going back to the beginning of the bracha, go back to Atar Gibor, and now recite the bracha properly. So right now you're in the middle of the bracha of Mechai HaMesim. You made a mistake. You said Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem. You should not have. But you didn't close the bracha out yet. So you can still fix your mistake. How do you fix your mistake? You said it already. You said Mashav Harach Morid Hagoshem. Can't take an eraser and erase it. Yes, you can. How? Go back to the beginning of the bracha and recite the bracha properly. But that's only true so long as you did not complete the bracha. Once you completed the bracha, now you closed out the bracha, and your bracha was a defective bracha. Okay, so why don't we just go back to the beginning of the bracha and repeat the bracha? No. The Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us that the first 3 brachas of Shemona Esrei, Avos, right, that's Magen Avram, Gvuros, Mechai HaMesim, Kedusha, Ata Kadosh, those 3 brachas represent 1 unit. So if one of the 3 brachas were defective, it's not enough to fix that bracha. You got to go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah, Eiskat Yod Zayin. Says the Mishnah Berurah, B'yamais hachama. The mistake that you made over here is you said Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham during the spring and summer season. Hainu afilu b'yarishayin shapasak boy. This halachah is true even if it happens to be the first day of the year when you don't say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham, otherwise known as the first day of Pesach from Musaf and on. According to the Shita Samachaber that we learned, this would mean Musaf on the first day of Pesach, because remember, the Machaber said, when do you stop saying Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham? Musaf, the first day of Pesach. Well, Ramah, but according to the Ramah, Dafka b'mincha. According to Ramah, the first tefillah of the year, when you don't say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham, is by mincha. Why? Because by Musaf, everybody still has to say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham because there's no announcement, stop saying Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham. Instead, everybody has to wait until the Chazan davens the Chazaras Hashatz of Musaf. He won't say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham. That serves as the hachraza not to say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham, and now by mincha nobody will say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham. Of course, the Chazan himself will not say Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham by Chazaras Hashatz of Musaf. Okay, we make this fellow who said Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham when he should not have, we make him go back. Why are we making him go back? The geshamim kashim la'olam b'maisachama, because we don't want rain during the spring and summer months. Let's remember, in an agrarian society, the spring and summer months, that's when you're going to be harvesting all of your crops. We don't want the crops getting rained on before the harvest. If you're growing a wheat crop or a grain crop and the rain hits at the wrong time right before the harvest, it could ruin the entire crop. So we don't want geshamim during these months. We don't praise the Rabbeinu Shalom, Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham during those months. Where does he have to go back to? The Machaber said the Rosh HaBracha, to the beginning of the bracha. What's the beginning of the bracha of Tchias HaMesim? Ato Gibor Lo'elam Hashem. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kat Yutes, B'di'eved, im loy chazar l'Rosh HaBracha, if he did not go back all the way to the beginning of the bracha. So he didn't go back to Ato Gibor. Ella l'Rav Lohishia. He went back to the words Rav Lohishia. So in other words, this fellow went like this. Ata Gibor Lo'elam Hashem, Mechayim Eisem Ata, Rav Lohishia, Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham. Mechal Kachayim B'chesed, Mechayim Eisem B'rachim Rabim. Now he says, wait a second, I said Ma'ashav Ruach, I shouldn't have done that. I got to go back. Rav Lohishia, Mechal Kachayim B'chesed. Says the Mishnah Berurah, B'di'eved, if he did that, B'di'eved, V'siyem Berchasai, and then he went on to say, Baruch Atah Hashem Echai Yamesim, Loi Mahadrin Alei, we're not going to make him go back to Ato Gibor or to repeat Shemoneh Esrei. We're not going to make him go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei. Now he already finished the bracha of Echai Yamesim. We're not going to make him go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei. So again, if you said Ma'ashav Ruach Amar Agasham in error during the spring and summer season, right? So really what you're supposed to do is, if you did not yet finish the bracha of Mechaya Mesim, you're supposed to go back to Ato Gibor. B'di'eved, if you only went back to the words Rav Lohishia, that also works, but it's a b'di'eved. L'chatchila, you go back to Ato Gibor. Ois kan chav, v'im siyem habracha, but what if you already finished the bracha of Mechaya Mesim? So now, the Mishnah Berurah is going to discuss, what does that mean, im siyem habracha? What's considered closing out the bracha of Mechaya Mesim, and now you can no longer fix your error, and now you have to go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Ayin b'Pri Megadim, take a look at the Pri Megadim, Shekasav writes, Tahainu la'acher sha'amar Baruch Atah Hashem. The Pri Megadim says, you say Ato Gibor Lo'elam Hashem, Mechaya Mesim Ato Rav Lohishia, You already said the shame. Now it's considered you already closed out the bracha of Mechaya Mesim. You can no longer fix your mistake and go back to Ato Gibar. You already said the shame. So now you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. So says the Pri Megadim. Aval, however, Hashari Tshuva v'Hachai Adam Kasvu. The Chavetz Chaim brings down the Shari Tshuva and the Chai Adam right. Davka im siyem legamri. It's only if you said Baruch Atah Hashem Mechayei Amesim. Aval im nizka la'achar Hashem. But if you just said Baruch Atah Hashem and you didn't say Mechayei Amesim, there's still another eitzah. What is that? Yesayem lamdeni chukecha. Say the words lamdeni chukecha. Baruch Atah Hashem lamdeni chukecha. That happens to be a pasuk in Tehillim. So again, you accidentally, you erroneously inserted Mashiv Arach Amar Agasham. You already said Baruch Atah Hashem. You could still fix your mistake according to the Shari Tshuva and the Chayadam. Say lamdeni chukecha shaloi tiyeh levatala. Now the shame that you said won't be levatala because you said a pasuk Baruch Atah Hashem lamdeni chukecha. Vim kain, and if so, hu ki'ilu omer adayin be'emtza bracha. Now it turns out that you're still in the middle of the bracha of Mechaya Mesim, right? You said v'nemanat halachos Mesim Baruch Atah Hashem lamdeni chukecha. You didn't close out the bracha of Mechaya Mesim. So now you have a din of somebody who's still in the middle of the bracha. If you're still in the middle of the bracha, you could go back to Ato Gibar. So v'chayzer l'Ato Gibar, now you would go back to Ato Gibar. So again, the halachah of the Mechaber was, if you erroneously said Mashiv Arach Amar Agasham during the spring and summer months, if you did not finish the bracha, you go back to Ato Gibar. If you finished the bracha, you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. What does I finished the bracha already mean? According to the Pri Megadim, it means you said Baruch Atah Hashem. If you said Baruch Atah Hashem, you're done. You can no longer fix the bracha of Mechaya Mesim. You can't go back to Ato Gibar anymore. Now you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Says the Shari Tshuva and Chayadam, no. You said Baruch Atah Hashem, say lamdeni chukecha. Now go back to Ato Gibar and don't say Mashiv Arach Amar Agasham and then finish out the bracha and go weiter. Everything is fine. But according to everybody, if you said Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya Mesim, so far for what we've seen, that would be a problem. Let's go weiter. Chaf Aleph, Chayzer L'Roish HaTfilah. If you already closed out the bracha Mechaya Mesim, you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. V'atam, and the reason is, the shalosh brachos rishonos chashuvos kechada. Because like I spoke out, the first three brachas of Shemona Esrei are considered one unit. So if your bracha of Mechaya Mesim was deficient because you included Mashiv Arach Amar Agasham when you weren't supposed to, it's not enough to repeat the bracha of Mechaya Mesim. Your whole first three brachas of Shemona Esrei are considered deficient, and you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. But, says the Mishnah Berurah, ve'ein tzarek lachsa v'loimer pasuk Hashem svasei tiftach, Hashem svasei tiftach v'yagiti hilosecha, you would not repeat. Okay, now let's go weiter in the Mechaber. We're on the bottom line, in middle of the line. So the Mechaber told us, if you erroneously said Mashiv Arach Amar Agasham during the spring and summer months, you have to go ahead and either repeat the bracha from the beginning of the bracha from Ato Gibar, if you did not yet finish the bracha. If you already finished the bracha of Mechaya Mesim, you have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Says the Mechaber, Va'afilu b'makom shetzrichim geshem b'yimoi sachama. Even if you happen to live in a place where they need rain, even during the spring and summer months, there are locales like that. There are locales where they need rain during the spring and summer months. Camera out of focus. Hello. Don't know why this happens sometimes, but it's probably annoying for the viewers, so I try to correct it when it does happen. So says the Mechaber, even if you happen to live in a place where they need the rain during the spring and summer months, so you might think, so what's wrong with the fact that I said Mashiv Arach Amar Agasham? Over here we need rain. Says the Mechaber, even if you live in a locale where they need rain during the spring and summer months, Hizkir geshem bimkaim tal. If you said Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem instead of Morid HaTol, like the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, remember, according to the world, in the world of the Mechaber, right, Minig Sfarad, during the months of the year that we don't say Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem, we say Morid HaTol. So, says the Mechaber, if you said Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem instead of Morid HaTol, erroneously, you have to go back, even though you live in a locale where they need rain during the summer months. It doesn't matter. Says the Mishnah Berurah is halachah Beis on the bottom line of Kuf Mem Aleph and Beis. Bimkaim va'afilim haya kol oisa hamedina mispalelid umisanin ala geshamim. Even if you live in a place where they so badly need rain that everybody is fasting and davening for rain, it seems incongruous that while everybody is fasting and praying for rain, you have to go back and repeat your Shemona Esrei because you accidentally said Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem. Yet, that is the halachah. And he says over here, V'ayin be'biur halachah, take a look in the biur halachah. Eis katan chav gimel b'mkaim tal, the Mechaber's words, you said Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem instead of Morid HaTol. Reciting Alarma, what the Mechaber wants to say is, Lefi Minig Sfarad. This is according to Minig Sfarad, which the Mechaber followed, Sha'omer b'may sachamo Morid HaTol, where you say during the spring and summer months, you say Morid HaTol. Amar zeh geshem imkaim tal. And this fellow said Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem instead of saying Morid HaTol. So this fellow has to go back, and he has to either repeat the bracha of Mechaya Mesim if he did not yet finish the bracha, or he has to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei if he did. So again, which person are we talking about? This is going on the Mechaber's case of somebody who lives in a locale where they desperately need rain, even during the spring and summer months. The Mechaber said, if you erroneously mentioned Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem, you still need to go back, even though they need rain. Says the Mishnah Berurah over here in Ois Katan Chav Dalet, V'afdal inyan she'ela, even though when it comes to saying the same talamotel of bracha in the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, which we call in the parlance of halacha she'ela, because that's where we are requesting rain. In the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, we ask the Rabbeinu Shalom, the same tal umatel of bracha, give us tal and rain for bracha. We're discussing here Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem in the bracha of Tchias HaMesim. We're not requesting rain. We're praising Hashem, who has the gevura, who has the might to bring rain. So says the Mishnah Berurah here, Nice Katan Chav Dalet, we seem to have a little bit of a contradiction in halacha. Over here in Siman Kuf Yod Dalet and Sif Dalet, we're saying, even if you live in a place where they need rain during the Yomai Sachama, if you say Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem, you must go back. Yet, we're going to learn that when it comes to the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, and it comes to She'ela, it comes to saying the same Talamotel of bracha and asking for rain. Over there we say, if you live in a locale where the people need rain, and you say the same Talamotel of bracha during the summer months, you do not have to go back. So what's the difference? Why is it that for Mashav Ruach Morid HaGashem in the bracha of Tchias HaMesim you have to go back, but for the same Talamoter in the bracha of Baruch Aleinu you do not have to go back? Explains the Mishnah Berurah, V'afdal inyan she'ela, even though when it comes to the bracha of Baruch Aleinu and v'sein talamotel of bracha, pasak lekamon b'simin kuf yod zayin sif beis, the Mechaber paskins later on in simin kuf yod zayin sif beis, the imsha'al ba'ofen zeh, that if you say v'sein talamotel of bracha erroneously during the summer months when you live in a place that needs the rain, that's what the Chavetz Chaim means when he says ba'ofen zeh, under these circumstances. Matar beberchas hashana b'may sachame ein makzir noisai. Over there you don't go back. Shani haskara deshvach, the mention of rain in praise of the Rabbeinu Shalom that we do in the bracha of Tchias HaMesim is different. The shevachu, because that's a praise to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Ve'ein derech lahaskir shevach b'davar shu klola b'shar mekaymos. Explains the Mishnah Berurah. Even if you live in a place that needs rain during the summer months, so fine, if you inadvertently say v'sein talamotel of bracha in the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, for that you don't have to go back, because you taka need rain. So you're asking the Rabbeinu Shalom to say talamotel of bracha. it's inappropriate lechatchila. Lechatchila, we don't do it. But if you did it b'diavad, we're not going to make you go back. But in the bracha of Ato Gibar, in the bracha of B'chaya Mesim, we are going to make you go back. Why? Because over there you're not asking for rain. Over there you're praising the Rabbeinu Shalom who has the Gvura to bring rain. But it's not a praise to the Rabbeinu Shalom if most of the world doesn't need rain now. Even if you punkt do need rain, you don't praise the Rabbeinu Shalom during the spring and summer months. Masiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashim. No, that's inappropriate for the spring and summer months. And that's why there's a difference between these two halachos. Now we go to the words of the Ramah, top line, Kuf Mem Beis Amud Aleph. V'chein, similarly, im hizkir geshem v'tal nami machzirin oisoi. The same halacha applies. Let's say somebody, until now we were talking about somebody who replaced Morid Atol with Mashav Arach or Morid Agashim erroneously. Says the Ramah, v'chein im hizkir geshem v'tal. Let's say somebody said Mashav Arach or Morid Atol or Morid Agashim. So he mentioned Tal, but he also mentioned Geshem. Machzirin oisoi. He's got to go back because it's inappropriate to be mentioning Geshem. Second line in the Mechaber, middle of the line, Sif Hey, says the Mechaber. So far we discussed the halacha of somebody who erroneously said Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim during the spring and summer months, when, according to Nusach Ashkenaz, we say nothing. We're not mazkir either Tal or Geshem. And according to Nusach Sfard, we say Morid Atol. Now we're going to see a great benefit that, actually it's a Vav. We're going to see a great benefit that Nusach Sfard has over Nusach Ashkenaz when it comes to these halachas. But first, let's see Sifhei. B'mais hageshabim. Let's talk about the opposite case now. Let's say during the winter months, when you are supposed to say Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim. B'mais hageshabim, during the rainy season, im lo amar Morid HaGashim, if you erroneously left out the Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim when you were supposed to say it, Machzirin oisoi, you got to go back. Same way. If you're holding the middle of the bracha, you go back to the beginning of the bracha. If you already finished the bracha, you got to go back to the beginning of Shemon Esrei. But, says the Mechaber, an interesting halacha. V'hani mili shali hizkir tal. It's only true that you have to go back to either the beginning of the bracha or the beginning of Shemon Esrei. I was right. The benefit of Nusach Sfard is in this sif. That's only if you didn't mention tal either. Avalim hizkir tal ein machzirin oisei. So what happened over here? We're talking about during the winter months. We're talking about during the rainy season, between Shmini Atzeres and Pesach. That's when we say Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim. What happened is, this person did not say Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim. Oh, you didn't say Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim? You got to go back. Either if you're holding the middle of the bracha, you got to fix your mistake. You got to go back and now say Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim. Or if you already finished the bracha, it's too late to fix the bracha. You got to go back to the beginning of Shemon Esrei because the first three brachas of Shemon Esrei are one unit. However, says the Mechaber, when is that true? That's only if you didn't at least mention Tal. So, if you are in the world of Nusach Ashkenaz, so the mistake that you made was, you said, so you didn't say Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim, and you didn't say Tal. You got to go back. But in the world of Nusach Sfard, you said you got mixed up with your seasons, so you left out Mashav Arach HaMorid HaGashim, but you said Morid Atol. In that case, you don't have to go back. Why? Because the takana of Chazal was that in the bracha of Tchias HaMesim, you have to be mazkir the shvach of the Rabbeinu Shalom. You have to mention the praise of the Rabbeinu Shalom. That not only does he give life to Homo sapiens, to mankind, and not only does the Rabbeinu Shalom have the power of Tchias HaMesim on a mensch, but the Rabbeinu Shalom is also mechaya the world. How is he mechaya the world? With Geshem. So during the rainy season, we mention Geshem. Now the truth is that the Rabbeinu Shalom is also mechaya the world with Tal. And the Rabbeinu Shalom is mechaya the world with Tal all year round. So even during the rainy season, If you neglected to say Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem, but you said Morid Atol, you were Mekayim the Takanos Chazal in minimal fashion. You at least mentioned Tal. So you mentioned the Rebbeinu Shalom's Gvura to be Mechayim the world. And therefore, you don't have to go back. I'm explaining this, I'll pee what I saw in the Aruch HaShulchan. Okay, so now let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Chav Hey. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Hageshamim, so B'mois Hageshamim, during the rainy season, you neglected to say Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem. Says the Chafetz Chaim, Afilu b'tefila rishayna. This halacha remains true, even if it's by the very first tefillah when you were supposed to say Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem, which is when Musaf shel Yom Tov Achar shel Chag, Musaf Shmini Atzeres, L'Didan, according to us, the Neihagen, who have the minig Lahachriz Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem Kaida Musaf. We have the minig that in shul they give a clap before the Shtil Shman Esrei of Musaf, and the Gabbai calls out Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem. So according to us, the first Shtil Shman Esrei that you're supposed to say Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem is Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. So even if in that Shman Esrei you erroneously left out Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem, you have to go back. Chavav HaGashem, Afilu Yamamar Mashiv HaRuach. And remember, it's not enough to say Mashiv HaRuach. You have to mention Gashem. Ois Katan Chav Zayin, Hisker Tal, but if you said Morid Atol, then you don't have to go back. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ritzayna Loimar, Afilu Yamamar Rak Morid Atol Avad. Even if you only said Morid Atol, that's enough. The Tamai, and the reason is, Daf Agav Deloy Netzar, even though we said yesterday that the Rebbeinu Shalom never withholds Tal, not during any season, and therefore we said, Me'ikar Adin, there's no chiyuv, there's no obligation to mention Tal, because Tal never Netzar anyway, it's never held back. Nevertheless, you are praising the Rebbeinu Shalom by mentioning Tal, and therefore you're Mekayim the Takanos Chazal in a minimal fashion, even if you just say Morid Atol during the Yomais HaGeshamim. It's not that way when it comes to the bracha Baruch Aleinu, when we say the same Talamat Levracha, the Tzarech Lishel al Davar HaNetzar, we have to ask about Geshem, which could be withheld. We're going to see later, when it comes to the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, if during the rainy season somebody said the same Tal Levracha, and he didn't mention Geshem, he's got to go back. He didn't fulfill the Takanos Chazal, not even in minimal fashion, because you're making a request of the Rebbeinu Shalom, don't say the same Tal. The Rebbeinu Shalom always gives Tal. The trick is to say Matar. Okay, okay, now we go to Siv Vav, 3 lines down, near the end of the line, in the Mechaber. Bamed Dvar Mamurim Shemachzirin Oisai Kishaloi Amar B'Mois HaGeshamim Morid HaGeshem. When is it true that if you did not say Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem during the rainy season, and also you didn't say Morid Atol, when do we say that you have to go back? Hainu kishasiyim kala bracha. That's only if you finish the entire bracha of Mechaya Mesim. V'hizchil bracha she'achareha. And you already started the next bracha. You already said Ata Kadosh. Va'oz chayzel l'rosh hatefillah. Then you're stuck. You have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Avalim nizkar kodim shesiyam abracha. But if you remember to say Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem before you finish the bracha of Mechaya Mesim, yoymar b'makayim shenizkar, you could say it wherever you remember. Let's just right away. I just want to make sure there's no confusion over here. 2 different halachos. We started the share today in Sif Dalid with the halacha of you said Mashiv Ruach HaMorid HaGashem erroneously during the spring and summer season. Over there, you can only fix your mistake before you finish the bracha. Before you finish Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya Mesim, we saw the Machlokes, the Pri Megadim, and the Shari Tshuva, and the Chayodam, right? If you said Baruch Atah Hashem, you could still say Lamdei Nechukecha, but you could only fix your mistake until you say Baruch Atah Hashem or Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya Mesim. Once you did that, your bracha is deficient. There's nothing you could do now to fix the bracha. The mistake in the bracha is you said something that you should not have said. The only way to fix that is if you didn't finish the bracha yet, you could go back to Ato Gibor. You could say Ato Gibor Leila B'Shem B'Chai B'Sem Ato Rav Lo Yishia Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed. So you're saying the phraseology that you need to say, and you're leaving out Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. That's how you have to fix your mistake. You're fixing your mistake by leaving something out. So the latest point you could do it at is until you say Baruch Atah Hashem or Baruch Atah Hashem B'Chayim B'Sem. Once you said that, there's no way to fix it anymore. You got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. But now we're talking about the halacha of somebody who's supposed to say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim, and he neglected to say it. Now you have more flexibility. Now the halacha is going to be, how are you going to fix your mistake? You have to say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. That you could still do, according to the Mechaber, even if you said Baruch Atah Hashem B'Chayim B'Sem, you could still fix your mistake. Say Baruch Atah Hashem B'Chayim B'Sem Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. Insert it over there. Since you did not yet say Atah from Atah Kadosh, you did not yet pass by the bracha of Tchias HaMesim completely. So you could still insert Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. Let's see it inside. Again, from the beginning of Sivav. B'ameh dvar mamurim. When is it that we say shemachzirin oisai, that we make somebody go back? Kishaloi amar b'mois hagishamim morid hagashem. If he failed to say Mashiv Ruach Morid hagashem during the rainy season, he also didn't say morid atal. Hainu kishesiyim kol bracha. That's only if he finished the whole bracha, the hiskil bracha shachareah, and he already started the bracha of Atakadosh. For us, chayzel rosh hatfilah. Then he's stuck. He can't fix his mistake anymore. What are you going to do? Say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim? It doesn't belong in the bracha of Atakadosh. It belongs in the bracha of B'Chayim B'Sem. So you can't fix your mistake anymore. You got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Avalim nizkar kaidim shesiyam habracha. But if you remember before you finish the bracha, which we're going to see means even after you said B'Chayim B'Sem, but you didn't say Atah yet, Yoimar b'makom shenizkar, you could say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim wherever you remember it. Va'afilu im siyam habracha, even if you finished the bracha, you said B'Chayim B'Sem, v'nizkar kaidim shehiskal Atah Kadosh, and you remember before you say Atah Kadosh, ein tzarich lachzar, you don't have to go back. Ela oimer Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim b'loy chasima. Just say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. It won't be closed off with a bracha. You're not going to say Baruch Atah Hashem B'Chayim B'Sem, but it doesn't matter. You could say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim right over there between B'Chayim B'Sem and Atah Kadosh. Very interesting halacha. And we're going to see in the Mishnah Berurah that this pertains to Ya'le V'Yava also. Let's see here in the Mishnah Berurah. It says the Mishnah Berurah is Kan Chav Ches. The hiskil. Where are you done? Where are you toasted? If you already said Atah Kadosh. But until then, you still have an opportunity to fix your mistake. Afilu tevas Atah levad. Even if you just say Atah from Atah Kadosh, now it's too late. V'adenim hiskil loymen kadesh. Or if you're the chazan, if you said the Kaddish Yeshib Chabaylam, now it's too late. You said the Kaddish, it's too late. You could just put in Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim wherever you remember. Because the truth is, Chazal will not kaveya a specific point within the bracha of B'Chayim B'Sem where you have to say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. Ela Amru Stam, all it says in the Gemara is Stam, Mazkirin Gvuras Geshamim B'Tchias HaMesim. That you have to mention the Rabban Sham's Gvura, the Rabban Sham's might of Geshamim within the bracha of Tchias HaMesim. But you could say it wherever you want in the bracha of Tchias HaMesim. Rak Shenagu Loimel Uftei Mechalkel, we're noyig to say it before Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Shehu Parnasa, because Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed is talking about Parnasa. Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, the Rabban Shalom supports life in his chesed, ugishamim gamkein parnasa, and that's what rain is. Rain is supporting us. Hilkach be'ezamakim sheyiskar sagi. So since Chazal will not convey a specific point in the bracha, we have to say it. You could say it wherever you remember. Upashit, and it's obvious, says the Chavetz Chaim, tim niska la'achar sha'amar v'nemanat alachiyas mesim. If you do remember after you say v'nemanat alachiyas mesim. So you said, V'nemanat alachiyas mesim, now you're going to say Mashiv Ruach Amar Nagashim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, now you have to go back and say V'nemanat alachiyas mesim again. Why? Because of a totally different halacha. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Pashut, it's obvious. If you remember to insert Mashav Arach Amar Agashim after the phrase V'nemanat Alakiyas Mesim, Detzarch Lachser V'loimar V'nemanat Alakiyas Mesim, you're going to have to repeat that phrase. Why? Because there's a rule always by brachas, de be'inon me'ein chasima, samach lachasima. We need to say something, we need to say a phrase that is similar to the closure of the bracha right before the closure of the bracha. So the chasima, the closure of the bracha is Baruch Atah Hashem mechaye hamesim. So right before that we have to say v'nemanata lahachiyos mesim. So if you interjected with Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim, now you have to repeat v'nemanata lahachiyos mesim so that it should come right before Baruch Atah Hashem mechaye hamesim. Ois Katan Lamed, the Mechaber said, you could even put in Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim after you said Baruch Atah Hashem Echai HaMesim, as long as you didn't say Atah from Atah Kadosh. V'afilu b'siyem v'cheinim niska halachah she'amar Hashem. What if you said v'nemanat halachiyas mesim Baruch Atah Hashem? So the Mishnah Berurah says, do the same thing we said before. No, I'm sorry. No. You don't do the same thing we said before. V'cheinim niska halachah she'amar Hashem yesayim Echai HaMesim. So say Echai HaMesim v'yarmer tekef Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim. What the Mishnah Berurah is coming to tell me is, it's not only that you put Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim in between Mechaya HaMesim and Atah Kadosh if you remember after you say Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya HaMesim. Even if you remember after Baruch Atah Hashem, make sure to finish the bracha, say Mechaya HaMesim, and then put in Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim. Ois Katan Lamed Aleph, Ela Oimer. Even if you finished the bracha, you said Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya HaMesim, don't go back. Say Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim right over there. Eloimer v'nachin lechatchila shemer miyad. Lechatchila, you should say it immediately. Baruch Atah Hashem Echai HaMesim Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim lebal yamtin lacha k'dei dibor. Try not to wait longer than Toich k'dei dibor Shalom Alecha Rabbi or Shalom Alecha Rabbi Yomayri, because we want the Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim to be connected to the bracha of Tchias HaMesim. So if you can, don't wait more than Toich k'dei dibor. Ois Katan Lamed Beis. In this case, you're going to say Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim between Mechaya HaMesim and Atah Kadosh, and the Mechaber said B'loi Chasima. It won't have a Chasima, meaning you're not going to say a bracha after it. V'shuv Omer Atah Kadosh, and then you go on and you continue to say Atah Kadosh. Says the Mishnah Berurah halacha that a lot of people don't know. V'hu hadin, the same halacha applies. Im shachach Ya'la v'Yavai, if you forget Ya'la v'Yavai b'Rish Chodesh, Shachris u'Mincha. If you forget Ya'la v'Yavai on Rish Chodesh by Shachris or Mincha, v'nizkar la'achar shesiyem birchas hamachzir, and you remember after you say Baruch Atah Hashem hamachzir shkinasar l'tzion, you could still fix your mistake. You could say Ya'la v'Yavai now and then go on to Moedim, as long as you didn't say the word Moedim. Sha'omer sham bim kaimai, you'll say Ya'la v'Yavai over there. Baruch Atah Hashem hamachzir shkinasar l'tzion. Elikeinu v'Elikeinu said Ya'la v'Yavai v'chulei, and then you'll go weiter with Moedim. Okay, look, come on, Mesiv Tavchav Beis Sef Aleph. Shekol shali hiskel b'bracha shalachareh. So long as you did not yet start the next bracha, loy nikra siyim bracha zu legamri. It's not considered that you really finished the previous bracha. At least le'inyan kol advarim shemachzir naisai. In the context of the halachos that require you to go back and repeat Shemona Esrei. So here we have an interesting spalt in halacha. It depends. Sometimes we consider it that you already finished the bracha even if you did not yet start the next bracha, and sometimes not. Over here, we don't consider it that you finished Mechaya HaMesim until you say Atah from Atah Kadosh. So you didn't say Atah yet, you could still insert Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim. Now over here, what's the choice? If we're going to tell you that you already finished the bracha of Mechaya HaMesim, then we're going to be very machmir on you. We're going to tell you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. If, however, we tell you that you didn't finish the bracha, then we're mekel, and we tell you, say Mashav Ruach Amar Agashim now, as long as you did not yet say Atah from Atah Kadosh. So in the context of this halacha, we say that it's not called the Siyam HaBracha. We don't consider it that you finished the Mechaya HaMesim until you say ata of ata kadosh. But there are other halachos where we say the other way. For example, let's say it's Motzei Shabbos and you're supposed to say ata chanantanu. You skipped ata chanantanu and you said Baruch Atah Hashem Chayne Adas, but you did not yet say Hashivenu. Can you say ata chanantanu now between Chayne Adas and Hashivenu? The halacha is no. But over there the halacha is no, but we're not making you go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. You forgot Havdalah in Shemona Esrei, you forgot. You don't go back for Havdalah. Okay, so over there, by that halacha, we're not faced with a choice of whether or not you should go back. Either way, we're not making you go back. So over there, we're machmir, kind of machmir, and we say, you said Chayne Adas, it's too late. You can no longer say Havdalah. But we're not making you go back. You're going to continue Hashivenu. So in the context of that halacha, where we're not faced with a choice that you have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei, over there we say, once you said Baruch Atah Hashem Chayne Adas, that's considered that you already finished the bracha of Chayne Adas. But over here, where we're faced with a choice, where if we're going to throw the book at you and we're going to tell you that you finished Bechaya Mesim, you're going to have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei, then we say it's not considered that you finished Bechaya Mesim if you didn't say Ata from Ata Kaddish. Let's see it inside. Even though once you finish the previous bracha, it's considered that you finished it, even if you didn't start the next one, in the context of places where you don't have to go back, like Ata Chanantanu, Kigon Havdalah B'Chayne Adas v'Ya'la v'Yaveh b'Arvis Rosh Chodesh, or if you forgot Ya'la v'Yaveh b'Ma'ariv on Rosh Chodesh, where you don't go back for Ya'la v'Yaveh b'Ma'ariv on Rosh Chodesh, V'Al Nisa b'Chanukah Purim, or let's say you already said Atayv Shimcha L'Chaneh L'Hodos on Chanukah or Purim, and you forgot Al Nisim. We don't say, we say Al Nisim now, after Atayv Shimcha L'Chaneh L'Hodos, if you didn't say Sim Shalom. No, because over there, we're not making you go back anyway. So over there, we say, okay, it's considered that you finished the bracha. It's too late to say Al Nisim. It's too late to say Havdalah, but you don't have to go back. In those cases, you can't insert the thing that you missed, even though you didn't start the next bracha. Says the Chavetz Chaim, however, you should know that there are poskim that argue on this for Oimrim, and they say that even in cases like ours over here of Mishnah Berurah, Moed Agashim, where if we're going to say that the bracha of Bechaya Mesim is over, you're going to have to go back. There are other poskim that hold you said Bechaya Mesim, even if you didn't say Ata, it's too late. You can't put in Mishnah Berurah, Moed Agashim. Okay. That's a yesh cholkim, yesh paiskim shecholkim. Val kol panim nearly lamaisa. The Chavetz Chaim says it seems to halachah lamaisa. Im niskar achash amar Hashem. If you said Baruch Atah Hashem, lo yigmar mechaya mesim. Don't say mechaya mesim. El yisayim lamdei chukecha. Say Baruch Atah Hashem lamdei chukecha, like we learned earlier in this year. V'yeh kikar pasuk levad. So it's like you're saying a pasuk. V'dinoi kilo oimen adayin be'emtza bracha. So now it's as if you're still in middle of the bracha b'chaya mesim. V'chayzer l'mashav ruach. However, we seem to paskin lamaisa. If you said Baruch Atah Hashem Bechaya Mesim, you could still put in Mashiv Ruach Moed Agashim, so long as you did not say Ata Kadosh. Okay, we're going to stop over here. We'll pick up next time with the words of the Ramah. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discussing limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rosh should send Yeshua for his parnasa. Shidduchim to all those in need, and we should be zeicher to see the BS called Tzedek, B'meher of Yameinu, Amen. Be well.